I've got to quote my sister. Shout out to my sister, Mel. And she said that Kirby just wanted British Bulldog to get the full Georgia experience. Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 39-22 victory over Kent State. We also take a moment to reveal our presenting sponsor for the remainder of Season 3. As always, remember to check out store.mygottapodcast.com to see our latest merch, and you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, we'd love for all of you to come join us at Dog Central. That's DAWGS Central.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. All right, so, not exactly what we were anticipating.
Yeah, I would say that was decisively not what we were expecting.
Yeah.
I'm sure that when we get to Coach Trill's over-unders, I imagine that you've probably taken the top spot.
Right. Man, I guess before we jump into the game, we can talk a little bit about the weekend. So I did make it down to Athens. I went down on Friday, stayed with my parents for the weekend. Went to the game with my parents. We actually had a big group. So shout out Bobby Wilson for helping us secure some extra tickets because my mom and my dad came, and my sister, brother-in-law, and their kids. We were all there. So I was sitting next to my nephew, Braden, and niece Sophia. So that was a good time. We had a big time, and went to Greg's tailgate pre and post game actually, and did get to meet British Bulldog, tailgated with him. We had a big time. If you haven't been following him on Twitter, he's been documenting it pretty well. All the people that he got to meet, there was an article written about him. He was on TV. I kind of ended up on TV somehow too. A little bit, but we do plan to have Chris back and kind of get the story of his weekend. So I don't want to go too much into that, but I know he had a good time, and I will give one quote that he did say to me was that he said Southern hospitality is a real thing. So it's pretty cool. Everyone made him welcome.
Yeah, I would say that he's had the weekend of all weekends, and I cannot wait, Chris, to dissect that entire experience with you. I know that your media availabilities have been decreased as a result of your celebrity status in Athens.
It was awesome. Hey, we always like to talk about the Bulldog brunch, and he actually went there this morning too. They mentioned it, that he was in the house. It was pretty cool.
What is it that what's his face? What is it that he always talks about? He's always hyping up like the Eggs Benedict or something like that.
Yeah, Eggs Benedict and the
Jeff Dantzler.
Yeah. And there's a shrimp dish that he's always talking about.
The shrimp, yeah.
We'll have to find out what he got.
You probably got some good Southern food there, Chris.
For sure. So I had a good weekend. Like I said, blast getting to actually meet Chris in person. That was a lot of fun. And as always, the hospitality from Greg was on point. Actually, I will quickly say the tailgate had moved over a tent, and we set up at the wrong tailgate. And a lovely woman walked up to us and was very nice, but it was like, "I'm sorry, but I don't know any of you." And you're at our tailgate.
Excuse me,
sir. It was awesome. So we had to move some stuff, a tent over. There's a bit of a mix up, but that was pretty hilarious. So as I said, it was the tailgate. The tailgate was so nice, we had to set it up twice. So that was fun.
That's amazing. We'll have to get the full download of that story when we link up with Chris for his story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But that part was mainly Adam, AO, and Dwight, and Kat. It was comical. and Chris. We were the ones doing that, so it was pretty funny. But so you had, we knew you were going out for fall break and heading out, and your game watching was going to be interesting. But it sounds, I still haven't even heard the story, so it sounds like it was pretty eventful.
Yeah. So Carter, it all started because my daughter had a volleyball tournament, right? And so there's a schedule that was put out. And let me just say that when you put out a kid's sports schedule, that you expect that it's going to be fairly close to be, pretty spot on to a schedule timing, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were 4 hours behind the tournament schedule for this volleyball tournament. So it
Wow.
was supposed to end. It was supposed to end at like 6:30.
Mm.
And I guess that they decided to play the tournament at Wheeler High School, which only had 2 courts, but a lot of the other locations had 4 courts. So that was part and parcel with some of the problems with the logistics. I'm going to have to, if you are a member of Cobb County's tournament volleyball scheduling, I would like to have a word with you. um, but yeah, so it was pretty much a Murphy's Law, and it was just pretty much comical at the end of the day. My wife was not happy about the situation, and I was like, "Look, there's nothing we can do about this." My daughter, they ended up in the losers bracket, which meant that they played more times.
Mm.
And they ended up having to play the eventual champions like 2 or 3 times or something like that. And
Wow.
we came in second place, but yeah, Carter got to play. We thought that we thought his game was going to be like the the bungler of the whole situation, but his game ended up going off without a hitch, and they made quick, easy work of Inter Atlanta pretty solidly. And then so he had a great game, and then we just kind of hung out for like 3 hours. So I got to see like bits and pieces of the game during Carter's game. And then like during halftime and before kickoff, and then after kickoff, trying to get him off the field. And then when we got back to the house, I probably saw like the last like 15 minutes or so of the fourth quarter, and interspersed with some radio time as well. Sounded like it was a little frustrating evening for everybody. But yeah,
Yeah.
to cap it all off, was basically the moral of the story was that we left Atlanta, Marietta at 10:30 at night
Oh
to
my
get to
gosh.
Gulf Shores. And I told my wife, I said, look, number one, we didn't have any hotel reservations, and I wasn't messing with it. The kids have been running around all day. They were tired, so I figured they might sleep through the night, and they ended up sleeping pretty spot on. Everybody started waking up with like 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
But I decided, I was like, look, I'm just gonna go straight through. So
Yeah.
everybody went to the bathroom. Everybody grabbed snacks, and we left. And I drove 6 straight hours. We got in at 4. I want to say we got in at like 4:15, 4:30 in the morning,
Mm.
and basically just everybody unloaded and threw people in beds. Didn't have any. Everybody's in a different bed today. Like we just basically like whatever bed you find, sleep in it.
Right. Right. Oh
And
man.
yeah. So I'm currently drinking coffee here at 3 in the afternoon. I guess here locally 4 in the afternoon over there.
And you're coming to us from the porch, right? Are you in the?
Yeah, we're coming to you live. We're coming to you live from Gulf Shores on the porch with
Nice.
the beach sounds in the background.
Well, I guess I can kind of just tell you, walk you through the game a bit.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to rely on your astute learning. So, full transparency, like I said, I didn't watch the entire game front to back, but I got enough just to understand that it was a frustrating, almost seemingly Mark Richtish era, like nooner kind of game, where basically everybody played to the level of the competition. And my brother-in-law, who's with me, he's a big Georgia fan as well, big My God a Podcast fan as well. Shout out Austin.
He has one of the hats. He was the first person other than me, you, or my dad, I think, to have a hat, actually. Anyway, sorry, continue.
I think that may be an accurate assessment. But he and I have agreed that we are going to drink bourbon, smoke cigars, and watch the rest of the game, or watch the game front to cover this evening on the deck.
Yeah, I will say I have not rewatched it. I started to rewatch it this morning with my dad. And we just watched a little bit. We watched we saw the opening touchdown, and then actually the first 2 turnovers we got to. I would think I would say that's pretty fair. Your assessment about like playing to the level of competition, and I will say I've got to quote my sister. Shout out to my sister Mel, and she said that Kirby just wanted British Bulldog to get the full Georgia experience.
Well, he wanted him to have a harkening back to his original fandom birth by giving him a nice Mark Drake era nooner.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
Like when we used to struggle with teams that were inferior to us, which is interesting because you look at like I just remember how it felt when Carter's game kicked off. Carter's game kicked off at 1:30, right?
Mhm.
And so it was around that time that I think that we were up by a single score or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like 13-9 or something like that, some crazy score like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember we got to the parking space and it was like, well, and I remember Scott Howard being like, it's going to sound weird if you haven't been with us, but it's 12-9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And, but looking at the ESPN Gamecast, like front to cover, it was pretty much 99% win probability. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. It was never in doubt. I mean, once we, basically or like as far as like the second half goes, I guess, at least. I mean, it was a little weird early. It was 12-10 at one point. That was the weird score. And then like, we pulled away to 26-13 by the half. And then the second half, like it never was in doubt. I mean, the closest they got was we were up 16. They scored, went for 2. So if they had made that 2, they cut it to 8 to be a 1-score game, but they didn't make the 2-point conversion. So, and then it was just, at that point, it was just kind of like we were running the clock. I think we had the ball for like 9 minutes or like 9.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. So we pretty much just controlled the clock in the fourth quarter and kind of got out of there.
Kirby was like, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So that's definitely how it felt.
Looking at the box score, it probably, I mean, looking at the box score, it went pretty much just like a game in which you have 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
And still managed to get over 500 yards of offense, outpossess, outgain, out first down the opponent. And yeah. And by the way, one of those turnovers happened to be, what is it? Didn't Ladd like muff the punt like inside like the 5-yard line or something like that?
Yeah. So basically, like they won the toss and deferred. So we received the opening kickoff and we scored in 2 plays. So it was like, first play of the game, Stet went deep to Ladd and they didn't connect. And then second play of the game was the Brock Bowers rushing touchdown for like 75 yards. It was amazing.
That was insane. Like,
yeah. And I was
insane.
I was actually sitting with Coach Trillbill because I'd walked up to talk to him before the game. I was sitting there and like we were talking and it was like, yep, and there goes Brock Bowers. Like it was crazy.
On a 75-yard scamper with the freaking tight end. Like,
I mean, and I'll say it's
the ball of Brock.
It was like we were saying with Chris, right? Like that, Brock Bowers can kind of do whatever he wants to do. Like you're telling me that guy couldn't play tailback? I mean, holy cow, he could definitely play tailback. Anyways, I digress. But like, but then the next drive, I mean, so on Kent State's first drive, I mean, we force a punt and Ladd muffed the punt. And so if you haven't, something you will have to watch, I may have to send you the clip. Kirby went ballistic on Ladd.
Oh, did we get a good Kirby rage stroke gif?
I haven't gifted it yet because I'll have to pull the video because I just saw it this morning. And there's 2 angles of it. So there's when it initially happens, it's like kind of from behind, and Ladd still has his helmet on, and Kirby like freaks out. I think he almost like grabs his face mask. And reading lips, I believe he said that was selfish, meaning you're trying to get a big punt return when you needed to just have a fair catch. And then when they came back from the break, there was another angle from the other direction, Ladd with his helmet off, and Kirby was he wasn't screaming as much anymore, but he was still talking through it and everything. But in Ladd's defense, he took it and you could just see him saying, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that was interesting. But like, I mean, it like totally messed. And so that led to their field goal, right? But I feel like that totally messed with his head for the rest of the first half because Ladd struggled for the entire first half. he bounced back in the second half, but in the first half, he had the muff punt, he had a fumble, and then he had two drops that probably both would have been touchdowns. One was a bit of alligator arms. He was about to get hit, and
I think that was actually something that Scott Howard said.
Yeah, and then the other one was like, he'd been struggling, and then there was a deep ball in the second quarter. Ladd his guy was open. Stetson made a great throw, and Ladd just dropped it. So I feel like it was all just kind of in his head at that point, I guess, and he struggled. But
yeah,
to his credit, in the second half, he bounced back in a major way. He was the leading receiver for the game. So that's, I don't know what happened in my in the first half. My dad looked at me and was like, I think Ladd's girlfriend broke up with him last night.
Someone broke up. Geez, Ladd, let us know, buddy. We can hook you up.
But I think it was good to see though, that that he was able to, I don't know, he forgot it all, and second half really turned it on. So that was interesting. I'm trying to think of what else.
So was he not so good, lad?
Right.
he wasn't quite a good lad.
Right. Seriously. So yeah, like I said, it was you're right. Basically, like the turnovers, I think the turnovers, turnovers are a great equalizer, right? You take that out and it's totally different. And it gave Kent State confidence, right? If we don't muff that punt, we don't muff the punt, we don't fumble, we're not dropping touchdown passes. And it was another one of those games where Stetson at the beginning was a little off. He threw one ball way behind Darnell Washington. The interception, Rosemy Jackson was open. Ladd was also wide open in a shorter route, but I think Rosemy was open for a touchdown, and Stetson just underthrew it. It was a great play by the defender, but I feel like Stetson made the right read. He just threw the ball a little too flat and underthrew it, and the defensive back stepped in front and made a nice play. So yeah, that was kind of.
I saw that clip, and I think it was it Josh, or I can't remember. Someone sent it to the text thread for Dog Central, but which I can't wait to see what those guys have to say about it. Graham and Josh, those guys they're going to be looking at the X's and O's and showing us all the holes. It'll be interesting to see, because I obviously didn't see any of that stuff, but seeing the clips afterwards, it's like, golly, Stetson, you gotta it wasn't like it was clearly Ladd coming over the middle wasn't clearly part of the play, but that's like the backyard football situation. You got to keep your head on a swivel. The throw that he made wasn't it wasn't awful, but I think there clearly was a better option.
Yeah. Okay. Ladd was more open for sure, but Rosemy was open. If
maybe
Stetson
the clip that I saw wasn't.
Yeah, it's. I will say too. Actually,
did he wait too long?
No, he just didn't throw it far enough. He threw it too flat, and if he had thrown the ball to the end zone, it's a touchdown. And I think part of it too is, where I sit, from our vantage point, you could really see it. You actually couldn't see it as well on TV, how open Rosemy was. So yeah, he would definitely, I'm not saying he was wide open. He wasn't running free, but he had a step on the defender if Stetson puts it in the right place. So, so it wasn't, Stetson, like I said, he was a little off, but he still played pretty well. He did achieve the stat again, right? So had a rushing touchdown and had over 250 yards passing. So he continued that streak. So what was he? So yeah, he was 27 to 36 for 272 yards. Did not think that Kent State would be the first game of the season that he needed to play the entire game. Right. That was interesting. So,
if you had to have a game for him to have an off day, or for everybody to have an off day, I'd rather it be against the Kent State Golden Flashes versus the SEC championship, whoever may be there out of the West. Right. Yeah, seriously. So if we've got all the interceptions out of our system in this game, I'm totally okay with it. I definitely, it was one of those situations where I was listening to it and, watching it here and there and seeing the score updates, and was like, Yeah, definitely would have liked to have seen us go, coast to coast, shut them out. I mean, kind of like what we thought about in the preview.
Right. I will say that I got to give Kent State some credit. They were pretty good. I mean, like I think they're better than South Carolina, honestly. Their running back really impressed me. Number one, and I mean, he was small. Marquez Cooper is his name, and he had
Yeah.
93 carries on 21. 93 yards on 21 carries. So it was pretty. He was impressive. He was impressive. He was elusive. I mean, he was like running over people a couple of times. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I don't know. I was impressed by him and the quarterback. I don't know. Like I said, they were pretty good, and I guess what was frustrating to me, and again, something I would like to see. I want to ask Josh about this. Is it's like I am kind of wondering, like, is it time to start getting worried about the run game? Like I feel like he keeps saying no. And what I'm concerned about is the offensive line. They just like the backs just don't have a lot of room to operate. Like they're still getting hit so quickly. We did finally get to see a lot of Dejon Edwards. I mean, he was the leading rusher. If you take Brock Bowers out, he was the leading running back rusher. 12 carries
That's funny.
for 73 yards.
Yeah.
So that was great to see. And I mean, he's like a pinball in there. Like he just bounces off of guys. I like the way he runs. So
we here at My God Podcast have loved Dejon Edwards. I've been waiting for him to have a breakout season because I just think that he is the reincarnation of Nick Chubb if he could get a chance to be the solid running back one.
yeah, I do. I'm curious too because McIntosh. So you haven't rewatched it, but McIntosh did get a little banged up. He had like a contusion on his leg or something. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get an update from Kirby on his press conference on what the deal is. What the deal is there. But yeah,
we'll be listening for hopeful.
Right. Yeah. Seriously. But yeah. So I don't know. Dejon might be in line for a little bit more playing time there. Anyways. So. I mean the defense again, like the long touchdown pass was kind of a frustrating play. I haven't rewatched it, but the way I recall it is I feel like one of our guys kind of got shielded by another one and led to him scampering down the sideline. So I don't know, there's a lot of youth showing in the game. And we missed Jalen Carter. I'll say that with him not really playing. He is missed.
So that was actually something that I was going to ask the boys about when they do their review. I'm curious to see. I haven't seen the snap count post on Dog Central just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have what was his snap count? Do you think
it was very low? I mean, the way I remember it, like I feel like I think he came in on offense once, like in one of the jumbo type packages.
I know Bear Alexander did.
Bear Alexander was the fullback lead blocker on the Kendall Milton touchdown. That's pretty cool.
Right.
But I mean, he basically wasn't in there. I really don't even remember seeing him in there on defense. Mm-hmm. I'd have to look it up. So his Carter snap count very low. But we did. Yeah. We did start to rack up our sacks finally. So it was kind of weird, right? Like we did get pressure. And the last, the Chris Smith interception was a direct result of the pressure. Like it was not a good throw. That's probably the worst throw that their quarterback made in the game. So I don't know. It was just a weird one. It was a weird one, but I do feel like Kent State is definitely better than I gave them credit for sure. And then, but I mean, like I said, we let them in the game, right? We gave them some early confidence with our mistakes. And I don't know, like belief is a big thing. It's a big deal, like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. They look like they were pretty well coached. They tried to take advantage of their opportunities when they had them. And, like I said, Murphy's Law was in full force. I blame myself, Jim. I told everybody, in one of the recent episodes that I like to go for a pregame run. I did not go on a pregame run for this game because I was up late packing and the pregame scramble with my wife having to leave. My wife and daughter were at volleyball from like 8 a.m. till 10:30 at night.
Mm.
That's the other like flip side of that I didn't mention. I didn't get there until late, but
Yeah.
my poor wife was at volleyball literally all day.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that hmm, I had the bad mojo from the get go.
Right. 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 Well, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. With all the craziness going, like it is college football, kind of thing. That's why we say the whole any given Saturday. I think that's a real thing. And with all the upsets we've seen around college football, and there was some other crazy games this weekend. Like, if you have an off day and you're a little frustrated, but yet we won by 17 points.
Yeah,
like
seriously.
that's silver linings, I guess.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Survive in advance. Stetson's still putting up pretty decent numbers. Obviously, the interceptions didn't help, but or the interception didn't help. But did he threw for touchdown or no? Did he have any touchdown passes?
Any touchdown passes? He did not have a passing touchdown. No, just the rushing touchdown.
So I guess Richardson at Florida finally got his passing touchdown. So he took some of the passing touchdowns from Stetson. So
that's fair.
We had to give him some, throw him a bone.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. So it's like we've said, we're national champions until we aren't. And the nice thing is that now when it's time to check if we are still national champions, we have a way to do that. So some big news actually for My Got a Podcast. So we are we like to joke sometimes about things that we like, and we say not a sponsor yet, but we do now have a sponsor. So the remainder of season 3, My Got a Podcast, will be presented by Oxia Time. So Oxia Time, it's a custom watch company, and if anyone would like to commemorate the dog's national championship in style, you got to check out their Georgia National Championship timepieces. So you can check those out. They have 2 versions. They've got the one that John and I both have, which, by the way, very nice watch. Definitely the nicest watch I've ever had.
It's definitely the nicest thing I own.
So the quality, the style, it's really like comparable to some of the big name Swiss watch brands, but at a much lower price. So definitely go check them out. And something that I think is exciting for all of you if you're listening. So exclusively for our listeners, you can get 10% off of these Oxia Time Georgia Bulldogs, officially licensed, by the way, officially licensed by the University of Georgia, officially licensed by the College Football Playoff. But you can get 10% off of one of these watches. You just need to use the code MyGottaPodcast, and you will get 10% off of one of these watches.
Yeah, man. Go check them out at axiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. And yeah, man, I was taken aback by how cool John Canaris is. He's the founder of the company. Really cool backstory on the company. He's the son of Greek immigrants, and I guess that's part of why they named Oxia Time the way that it was, because Oxia means worth and value in Greek, and so he brings that, try to provide value, a lot of value for the money, and he just has a real good passion for timepieces, elegant timepieces. And if you are wanting to enjoy the national championship that we have, this is a way that you can partake.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. Yep. So be sure to check them out. And like we said, code MyGottaPodcast, 10% off. So we're excited to partner with Oxia Time for the remainder of season 3 of My Gotta Podcast. All right, John. I don't know. What do you, anything else that you have for the Kent State game before we wrap it up? Actually, sorry, I do have one more thing, and you mentioned it, and then I forgot to come back to it. So Coach Trillbill has updated coaches over unders for the season, and as you guessed, I have taken the lead. So in this game, I went 5-3. And you went 3-5. Chris actually also went 3-5. But you guys didn't have all the same answers. So you varied on some different things. So on the year, I now lead in coaches over unders 19 and 13, and you are 18 and 14. So we are right there, neck and neck on the quest.
I'm just playing down to my competition.
Fair. Oh man. I will say too, I mentioned that I was sitting with Coach Trillbill when Brock Bowers scored that touchdown, which obviously also means I was with him at kickoff. So I was able to assess how he assessed the 80% capacity at kickoff. And he was very, no, I'm just kidding. But
I'm gonna call shenanigans. You were there getting the home game treatment.
Fair, true. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I will say though, thankfully we both picked.
You're sitting there overlooking everything.
Hey, I could have faded you and like taken the under, and then I could have influenced it. But since we both made the same pick, you didn't have anything to worry about. It was all good.
Yeah, I didn't want you over his shoulder trying to sway any votes, because this is really important stuff, Jim.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like the quest. We have to. I don't know. I feel like we need
like a little Dundee, of Coach Trill.
We need. Yeah, we need something. We need something. Coach, let's talk. We'll figure that out. All right, man. Well, I'm glad that you made it to the beach. It looks like you guys have an awesome setup. I know it took a lot to get there.
Yes, we're gonna enjoy this week. My brother-in-law and his wife, first time that they've taken their little girls to the beach, and cousin time, and we've got plenty of space. It's probably the nicest place that we've ever stayed at. So yeah, I'm super stoked for the week, and we're just ready to kick off SEC schedule coming up here next week.
Yeah, man. Yeah, back into the SEC night game on the road with Missouri. And they should have beaten Auburn. I know, like, you were driving all day, or you were all around.
I actually was able to watch like the 3:30 kickoff. We were at Otter's Chicken, which incidentally could be an entrant into the great chicken debate. Which I can't wait to hear what Chris's take was on that.
I know. I handed him his first ever Chick-fil-A, by the way. I will say that.
Nice. So. That's actually a big moment in a guy's life.
It was pretty big.
Yeah, but I was actually able to watch a little bit of Florida, Tennessee, and watch the absolute smoking crater of a game that was. And then I watched Ole Miss kind of to play with their food for a little bit. Then what was the other game?
Did you watch A&M?
The Auburn.
Oh, you watched
game.
Auburn. Yeah,
we watched Auburn, Missouri. The Auburn game, Auburn, Missouri. I watched Missouri basically gift Auburn the game a couple of times.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, multiple times they should have won that game. The night games were. The A&M Arkansas game was insane. That was fun to watch. That was fun to watch as someone who had no rooting interest. That game was crazy. So
that game kicked off right around the time when we were leaving to go to volleyball. So I had I actually haven't even seen what happened.
Well, so there was multiple crazy things. Like Arkansas was about to go up 21-7 in the first half, and KJ Jefferson tried to go over the top and he fumbled, and Texas A&M recovered the fumble, and the guy was about to get stopped, and then he lateraled to somebody. He handed it off backwards to a guy who then took it back for a touchdown. But then they missed the extra point. But so you're about to go up 21-7, and instead it's 14-13. And then A&M, they scored, I think 23 straight or 20 something straight points. And then Arkansas ended up coming back and they kicked what would have been the game winning field goal right at the end. And the ball literally hit the top of the upright. I've never, ever seen that happen before. And it bounced back into the field. It was absolutely insane. So, and he was, obviously he was beside himself, the kicker. So it was a tough one for the Hogs.
It was a tough day to be a college kicker.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I guess that's kind of back to what I was saying. You've got all these crazy games going on. Can't be too disappointed with a 17-point win. So
yeah, I'll take it. Just win, baby. Just win.
That's right. That's right. All right, man. Well, we'll be back to preview Missouri later in the week.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go and float and have a couple of bourbons with my buddy Austin, and we'll kick it back off, obviously. But yeah, it's about that time, Jim.
Awesome. Time to get a watch from Oxia Time. Use code MyGuidePodcast to get 10%
Exactly.
Awesome.
Hey man, we'll talk to you in a little bit. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.